So Leave the World Behind was recommended to me by friends, and I'd seen some really good buzz about it online. So I thought, hey, this could be awesome. It looks spooky, mysterious, and it looks like some crazy things happen, so I was drawn in. Through 90% of the film, I was hooked and thought, okay, this is great. What is happening? How is this all shaping up? Then the ending to this film was a massive letdown. Because of that, I wouldn't feel right giving it anything more than 6.5 out of 10. There are a lot of big promises and setups narratively through the story that effectively led to very poor payoffs. This reminded me of the Lost TV series, where they would answer a question with more questions, which is great for setting up suspense and mystery. However, the further you go down that rabbit hole, the payoff has to be really great, and in Lost, they messed it up. In this film, they messed it up. With that said, I'm going to go through some examples, so fair warning, spoilers ahead. If you haven't watched the film, go check it out. It's worth watching. If it's not for you, then just carry on watching, I guess. Setup. The country is being hacked by an Islamic group. Who? Payoff. Oh, it's a false flag operation because somewhere else is getting the same pamphlets but in Korean. This is asking more questions, creating the next setup. Okay, why would it be a false flag operation? Payoff. Dialogue at the end, simply to cause chaos. A pretty lackluster final answer, isn't it? Another example of this. Setup. The animals are migrating strangely and out of season. Why? Payoff. The deer herd into two characters, allowing one of them to show their maternal instincts to the other, proving that she doesn't quote-unquote hate everyone as much as she claims through the film. This is her redemption arc and her character development at the end of the film, and that's the payoff for animals migrating strangely as a result of a cyber attack. Okay, a pretty unfulfilling explanation. Let's try another one. Setup. The boy gets bit by a bug. Payoff. He gets an infection, which is understandable, which leads into another setup. His teeth start falling out. Why? Payoff. They go to the survivalist's house to get medicine, and they have conversations with him through some insight and a conversation outside of our 6 main characters who are in the house. This is all the result of a cyber attack. How does a bug bite make a kid lose his teeth? Payoff. Dialogue at the end of the movie. Radiation microwave emitter weapons that are the noise that comes from the sky. Again, a very unfulfilling payoff.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
The last example. Setup. Confrontation between the survivalist about the medicine that pays off into this is a cyber attack leads into a conversation between our 2 main male leads where the homeowner says this is a 3-phase attack and the 3rd phase is a civil war that should destroy the country from the inside, and we should go to the rich neighbor's bunker. Payoff. All the characters end up either in there, close to there, or heading there. Again, a very lackluster explanation. And I'm generally quite a negative person, but I think expecting a whole country to devolve into a civil war because of confusion is a bit of a stretch. I think the overwhelming majority of people are actually quite good and wouldn't just want to start killing each other because their iPad doesn't work. With all of these examples, what I'm trying to say is, us as the audience and then the characters in the film, we have all of these mysterious things happen, and then when we find out why, that then just leads into another question, and then another question, and then another question, and then at the end of the film, it wraps all of it up in the space of about 10 minutes, and we're sat here wondering, well, they've only just kind of speculated on that, and I know it's only what we can gather from the information that the characters give at the time, because we're living this experience through the characters, but a lot of it just bundled up at the end. It just kind of felt like the whole thing was blown over really quick, and that's why I really enjoyed the first 90% of the film. There were some good setup and payoffs in this film that I did enjoy, that subverted my expectations in a good way. For example, the gun in the cabinet. I thought this would have been narratively used to put pressure on the 2 families in the home through the film. Instead, it was used in the polar opposite way, bringing them closer together than they'd ever been during the standoff with the survivalist, which I thought was really good. The film kept me hooked for the first 90% with everything that was happening. The oil tanker scene was a great kickstarter into the chaos of the film. The aeroplane crashing into the beach scene was fantastic, and then the Tesla crash scene was chef's kiss.
Oh my fucking god. Well, maybe that was a little too hard.
No, not that one.
Say something, I'm giving up on you.
And then to add to that, there are a lot of little moments like this one with the deer eyes in the garden. It was creepy and awesome. In just a perfectly normal scene interaction between two characters developing their relationship inside the house, through the window is a sea of unnoticed reflective deer eyes. Unnoticed by the characters, but a subtle and very effective reminder to the audience that not all is right. There are a lot of moments like this through the film, and it added to the feeling of suspense and tension and kept me thinking, what the fuck is going on? Why is all of this happening? And I enjoyed that feeling of what the fuck is happening through this film. It kept us on a downward spiral, and we never really know what's going to happen next, because it seems that almost anything is possible. With all of these things happening and all of the shots from space, I thought it was going to be something more cosmic, like a solar flare could have broken the satellites and the communications, affected migration patterns for the animals through heat and UV. A radiation flare could cause adverse health effects, making people lose their teeth. But then I realised I was stretching a little bit, and the teeth thing is where the film lost me. Then the ending just kind of came out of nowhere with a lot of very cheap payoffs from all the suspense that we've been building on as a result of a conversation and a standoff with the survivalist. How I feel they could have fixed this in this movie. They had a lot going on, and I think they could have cut out some of it. Some of the positives, so the cyber attack, very real threat. The big and small vehicle disruptions, very real threat. The false flag operations, very real threat. The radiation level risings, very real threat. All of these made sense, and they would be scary enough alone as outside factors. And then inside with the characters, we have the boy getting the infection, the tensions between the two families, the girl running away. I think that would have been good enough. However, the god emitter ear bleeding noise, the animal migration, the bug bite that causes teeth to fall out, them relying on the country to start a civil war as a result of mass confusion.
Dum 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 dum.
Yeah, I feel like those points were a bit of a stretch of plausibility for me. If I had to stretch out a reason for those things, the microwave radiation emitter, okay, it's a fiction story. However, the explanation was just a throwaway line from the survivalist at the end. It created some tense scenes through the film, however they could have really done away with it. The animal migration patterns, I still don't understand flamingos grazing in a chlorinated swimming pool or the large deer herds. Animals wouldn't change their basic fundamental nature because of a cyber attack. However, if it's affected logging, environmental, and all of these kind of works, maybe the animals would change their patterns, but I don't think it'd be that drastic over the course of 2 days. The bug bite, yes, I understand you could get an infection, and that would be bad. Very good, keep that in. But then the teeth falling out as a result, and him keep pulling them out, I understand that for shock value, and maybe the radiation emitter had weakened his immune systems, and that's why he's losing his teeth as a result of an infection from the bug, but still, I'm stretching for all of that. So I think they could have done away with some aspects or some of those ideas entirely. Then with the homeowner, I would say, I know things are wrong because of the numbers, and I know there's a 3-phase attack because of some guy I know. All of that just felt very convenient and pretty bloody lazy writing, if I'm gonna be honest. And all of this kind of accumulated and resulted at the end. And I think at some point it just stretched my suspension of disbelief just way too far, and that just led to a quite unsatisfying ending.
What a load of old shit!
These more negative aspects of the film, I feel like they could have dumped or downplayed some of them. They still would have had a very good, shocking, suspenseful, tense movie, because there was already a lot going on without those aspects. And I always feel like less is more sometimes in storytelling in cinema. This film went past it at some point, probably around the pulling of the teeth mark, and it keeps adding to that suspense when it should have been paying off its earlier setups properly. Along with that, the daughter running away for effectively no reason, because she can't watch Friends and nobody listens to her and she feels like a bit of an outcast in the family. In that situation where your parents don't know what's going on and the world seems to be collapsing in on itself, I think the last thing a child at that age would do would be run away from their parents. And then she conveniently ends up in the neighbour's house that has a bunker. She's eating their junk food, stumbles into the bunker and finds Friends, the TV show, so that she can watch the last episode. I just think, fuck off, movie. Seriously.
Dum 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 dum.
So past the ending, we can all gather that they end up going to the bunker and surviving this civil war in one way or another. However, how they got there was just so bad. The daughter should have never run off. They all should have stayed at the house. They could have had a big maternal confrontation with Julia Roberts' redemption arc in there. They could have written it in another way. Then the fathers and the boy return. They're like, we need to go to this bunker. All go to the bunker. Happy days. Rather than her just stumbling into it by coincidence. Ugh. Then how they come to the conclusion of there's gonna be a civil war was pretty bloody lazy as well. After meeting with the survivalist, he's just like, this is a free-phased attack. The next stage is to let us do the rest of the work ourselves. How are you conveniently so knowledgeable about all of this?
Frogs gay!
It just felt a bit lazy. If they would have looked over the river and saw bombs going off in the city, which there was, okay, that makes sense. Right, something very bad is going on. We need to get somewhere. This guy has a bunker, let's bloody go. Fine. This whole, I know there's a free-phased attack, shut up, just felt very lazily written. I'm aware that all the information that we get is only through what the characters get, and we only get the conclusions that they would get to with their limited information. That adds to the feeling of suspense of the film and keeps the audience guessing, and it kept me really invested through 90% of the film. However, the last 10% of the film, payoffs were crap, the writing was crap, and yeah, they just fumbled the ball. So now I'm over the negatives. So the positives, the atmosphere was great. The sense of the situation spiraling out of control in the world and the relationships between the characters were crafted so well. The imagery, the cinematography, the performances, and all of the camera work were amazing, which made for a very visually striking film, which I will always enjoy. With all of these aspects, it was a really good film. It's just a shame that the story, predominantly the ending, let all of these aspects down. I feel like this is fair, and it's quite represented in the Rotten Tomatoes scores. If you look at these, you'll see that I think the audience narratively felt like they was let down by the ending, understandable. And then the critics, I think they think a little bit like me. The suspense was really well built up. The movie was really visually striking. The performances and the relationships with characters were really well done. But the ending fucking sucked. I feel like the cynical Julia Roberts character was great, she was relatable, and I enjoyed the journey that she goes through, and then the payoff with her redemption arc with the homeowner's daughter. I enjoyed the family's father character, seeing him as a predominantly relaxed, and then as things get worse and panic sets in, you really see the regret and the upset within himself from his poor decision making. This made him quite a relatable character, and not just a single one-toned, chilled out cool guy. He does get a redemption plot beat and the survivalist encounter at the end, where he really steps up in his own way rather than being too overwhelmed to do anything, help or influence a situation like he had earlier in the film. The trust dynamic between the four elder characters at the beginning of the film was great and suspenseful enough to probably have carried this film a lot further. Just having a stranger knock in the middle of the night, that's a great setup. Their relationship through the film, not knowing how long they would have to coexist, you can see really creates a big strain, especially with the homeowner's daughter and Julia Roberts' character. The homeowner and the family's father have a similar stance of we should see and find out what's happening and act on that information. Whereas the homeowner's daughter and Julia Roberts' character, their attention is turned very introvertedly to their situation that's happening under that roof, creating a distrusting divide between the two sides, further adding to the tension of the world around them kind of breaking down. This really cultivates a feeling within the audience of what will happen next to them, their relationship. Will they get over everything? You don't know, because everything is being held up by a thread. But when the opposite happens and they really do pull together, it does feel like a big sigh of relief at the end of the film, even if it's not written overly well, which is nice because it completes and resolves Julia Roberts' character's dislike and distrust of people into being almost maternal to someone that she's only known for a few days in the homeowner's daughter. It goes to show that even the coldest of hearts can be warmed to others. It's a very well made film, and for the most part the plot is pretty good. The suspense builds amazingly. However, the payoffs at the end just lets the whole thing down. With all of that suspense building, did it set itself up for failure? There was a lot going on, and I don't think that they had time or real answers to deal with it. I feel like this movie went really big and then couldn't get the right payoff at the end. Is this film worth the watch? If you really enjoy films, check it out. It's a very well made film, very visually pleasing. The character dynamics are really good. The way that it builds on its own suspense is also really bloody good. However, narratively, right at the end, it lets itself down.
It's a war.
Dum 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 dum.
If you can get over that, 100% watch this film. Cheers for checking out this video, I appreciate you. If you agree or disagree with anything that I've said through this video, drop a comment. I'm always open for a discussion. Do all the YouTube things, it's much appreciated. Like, comment, subscribe. I hope to see you on the next one. Cheers, bye.